Are there any misconceptions or mistakes you see people making with strength cycles?
Yeah, I think you're right in that we'll probably be recapping a little, but I think probably the biggest one is working close to failure and grinding reps. And this is one that I think is it makes sense. It's intuitive as to why there's a lot of importance placed on one rep max testing. And so you get into this idea that there's something beneficial about those slow grinding reps where you're not sure if you're going to make it. And it's taken many years for me to relinquish that mindset. I even remember a strength phase that I designed after the CrossFit days, maybe like 2019 or something. And I buried myself. Like I was like, all right, cool. I can back squat this much. So I'm going to start my cycle at 365 triples. And it was fine. Right. And then it was like next week, 385, then 405, then, oh shit, So it's what I should have done was just hung out at 315 for a while and just like done really fast triples and like gotten really good at triples there. And then, gone to doubles at 365 or whatever it is. Like I misprogrammed the cycle because I was so heavily influenced by the poor way in which programming was done back in those days. And so now with all the new research we have, it's just a different world. The evidence-based space has exploded. And so the idea of training further from failure for strength is 100% like the main thing that people need to change. Just get comfortable being 5+ reps from failure and just hammering technique.
It's like, if you're moving like garbage, well, congrats. Like we've missed the point for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if the way that you're practicing doesn't resemble the way that you're playing, right? Like practice weeks, testing weeks, however you want to look at that analogy, practice the way you want to play.
Brian, do you remember the Dave Castro video when he was deadlifting? It takes him like a minute to deadlift.
Yeah, it was like 460 or something.
Yeah, like have you seen that? Laura, do you know what I'm talking about?
Is he like twerking
once he gets
the top? It took literally like 10 seconds for him.
That's what I was thinking. When you were talking about that, that's what I was thinking, like about the grinding reps thing. And I'll be honest, like I coming again from that space and then the weightlifting, heavy lifting space, like I felt like if you weren't grinding reps, like you weren't doing nothing, but that couldn't be any more farther from the truth of actually what's beneficial.
Even the 1 rep max attempts of elite lifters, it almost looks effortless. Like because you've been there, that like they're struggling internally. But when you watch someone sumo deadlift, it's weird. It's like the moment it breaks the floor, it's just like pop, the hips come through and you're like, whoa, that's your 1 rep max? What?
Yeah, there's going to be some, maybe like if you're really truly getting like close to that, like 1 rep max, like a true 1 rep max, like it's probably not going to be like the bar's not going to be moving super fast. But like we're talking about training, like during training, it should not be like that bar speed shouldn't be slowing down so much that it's like, that's 56K modem knife or like whatever that old school modem speed dial up modem, man. Like we really should not be that way. Yeah.
I feel like you almost don't even want to see any rep slow down when you're practicing in training. Because if you're talking about being 5 reps from failure, it's usually around that like 3 to 4 rep from failure point where you start to see rep slow. So if you're doing triples at 80%, which is a very standard like powerlifting type thing to do, you should be hitting that 3rd rep at approximately 5 RIR. And so yeah, all those reps should just be clean and snappy, and you really shouldn't see much issue with that.
And even too, like with like the resetting, if you're like sitting there at the top, like taking 10 breaths, right?
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't see that either if we're going at a load that is conducive.
Yeah, I mean, you just hit the top, you take a breath, and confidently that you can just go down and replicate that performance again.
We totally saw one in the Instagram group the other day, and it like brought me back because I was like, oh, I for sure used to squat like this. But the video was someone squatting, and she gets to the bottom and she like stopped, paused, and then like bounced to get out of it. And so we were laughing and we were commenting back and forth. I was like, oh, I used to do this back in my weightlifting days. And it was like, I jokingly would always call it like the Beyonce bounce, because the joke in the gym was like, if I could get under it, right? Like I could clean something, be at a dead stop. But my front squat was so freaking high that I knew, I knew if I just popped up. And the thing is, what are we training for? Because being able to use that stretch reflex is great if you are Olympic weightlifting and trying to win the things. But again, if we're talking about like, I'm actually just really trying to get strong, or I'm trying to, improve my physique or whatever it is, it's like, well, then we probably don't want to be doing that. We do just want more like the raw, pure strength of, can you hit the bottom? And then can we just get back up?
Yeah, and I feel like the grinding, like those types of things we've done, that's always where I've got hurt.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's almost impossible to grind a back squat or really any movement, but you can see it really well on a back squat without compensation occurring. Like if you ever see anyone hit that midpoint where they just kind of stop and then wobble a little bit and then they keep going, the reason they're able to keep going is because their body figured out a neurological connection to have some other part of their body take over. Because just getting to that point where you stop and wobble means the area you're trying to work failed. And so you'll either see like the torso forward a little bit, the hips kick up a little bit, any number of compensations that occur. But that is literally like when you grind something, the nature of grinding is such that there is compensation occurring.
And so I think the best advice there, right, is it's just like, especially if this is a movement you haven't done in a while, or you're a little bit rusty, or maybe you're all new together, it's like, please watch the videos in the app, check out our points of performance that we always list in the app. Because same thing, it's like every time we do sumo deadlifts, my favorite is like, people have their hands really wide or their feet, it's like everybody's just all over the place. So just make sure, exactly like Brian said, it's like, if we're either having the weird compensations, we've got the booty, popping up when we're trying to squat, or we're just not in the right positions. Like, double check yourself.
Beyonce bounce. I love that.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I do want to add in just one caveat for all the people listening, because I think that after this conversation, we're going to have a lot of members realizing that within the structure of the way I programmed this, that we are working closer to failure each week, and thus there will be weeks where you are going to have rep speed slow as you drive up through these movements. And so that's mostly a product of this being a 7-week cycle. When I'm talking about all this research on staying 5 reps from failure all the time and just like hammering perfect technique, this is like mostly done on people that strength training is their life. They do this 52 weeks a year. We're trying to cram a 7-week strength cycle in the most efficient manner, right, into this like 7-week period. And so we have to use intensity, or in this case, being closer to failure, as one of our tools to get the most out of our 7 weeks. So it's a slightly different approach than you would see if we were creating like a 52-week periodized cycle, where we would have very large periods of time where we're just training 5 reps from failure all the time. In this case, we just have to be a little bit more direct and quick with our progressions, because we have the 7-week period to fit it in.